Let's get straight to it. 2016 Scion TC. This is the 2.5 liter engine. And today we are changing front brake pads. And this is what your brake pads should look like. They don't have to have the orange on it, but they have to be shaped just like this. And this is the hardware that goes replaces the old hardware. C-clamp for pressing the piston back in. This is the wire wheel and wire brush for cleaning up our hardware, and the 14 millimeter is for breaking the bolt on the back of the caliper. You don't have to have a 17 millimeter. I'm going to be taking off my caliper bracket so I can clean it thoroughly. You don't have to do that, but so that's why I have the 17 millimeter, and I have the ratchet wrenches so that after I break the bolts loose, I can just ratchet wrench them out. I have a flathead screwdriver for prying, and a hammer for anything that's stuck, especially if I'm trying to remove the old brake pads, and also trying to get the bolts out the back. Sometimes the hammer helps it go. So whenever you're doing brakes, especially compressing pistons back in, you want to take the cover off of the front of the reservoir and just set it loosely on top. That way when you compress the pistons back in, the fluid comes back up, but doesn't it also has somewhere to go and doesn't just fight against the cap. So I have the vehicle in the air, and I have my jack stand for safety. So I'm using this ratchet right here, this impact. So basically I can leave the vehicle in the air, but if you're not, it won't spin, but you're putting pressure on the parking pawl and the transmission. So I recommend, if you're not using the impact, to have some pressure on the tire from the vehicle, some weight, and then once you loosen those bolts, then you can raise the car back up and get that tire off. So the first step down here is to remove this caliper bracket. There's two 14 millimeter bolts on the ends. I'm going to go ahead and crack those loose with this, and then I'll finish getting them off with the ratchet wrench. Alright, so once you get your caliper out, you can set it on top here, and I'm going to go ahead and wire this with the wire to my spring so that it doesn't fall down. Alright, so I have a hook that's meant for this, and you can see I have it hanging from the caliper, from the spring here. So now I can compress this spring and everything without worrying about it falling down. Let's go ahead and remove our old brake pads, which aren't really in bad shape, but they wanted them changed, so we're going to change these. Get our old hardware off. We'll get the inside ones off. So you can see here will be a nice time to clean all of these grooves up right now. So that's what we got our wire brush for. So we'll take our wire brush and we'll clean all of these grooves on the top and the bottom, on the inside and the out, before putting our hardware on. There's two 17 millimeter bolts inside here holding this caliper bracket on. Let's go ahead and get those off. So it's time to push our piston back in. So this is my setup using the old brake pads and a C-clamp. So get that piston back in and we'll go from there. Now it's time to apply a little grease on the back of these forks and also on the edge of this piston. Now it's time to slide our brake pads on. This one says outer, so we'll put it on the outer, and the other one we'll put on the inner. So now that we have our brake pads on and our caliper greased, we can go ahead and put our caliper on. Alright, so now that everything is on, it's time to go ahead and put our tire back on. Now that the tire is on, now we can go ahead and put our top back on the reservoir. This is the brake reservoir. And that is pretty much it, guys. That is how you change your front brake pads on a 2016 TC.